both teams did what they felt they needed to do, and if both teams are right about what they need to do, both teams can win. Both teams can win a trade. You see, if the Jets win a Super Bowl or even get to a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, it would absolutely validate whatever trade they would give up, whatever picks they give up. If the Green Bay Packers do have a franchise QB in Jordan Love and got back a 1 and a 2 for Aaron Rodgers, they absolutely get validated as well. So it's one of these trades where both teams can win, and both teams can win big. Now, I have serious doubts about Rodgers. I have doubts about Rodgers' age. I have doubts about Rodgers seamlessly fitting into a new culture, considering he seemed to always bang against the culture of his own that he had been around and helped build. I also have massive questions about Aaron Rodgers in a thick AFC contender race and massive questions about Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. You see, everything that Rodgers did, which was so brilliant in the regular season, and the MVPs recently, and the 1 seeds for the Packers, and all these great regular seasons, may camouflage for some the fact that he fell on his face in the playoffs. We can go back 4 straight years. Of the last game of the season the Packers played, he played like dirt. He played like dirt in San Francisco in 2019 when they got roundhouse kicked by the Niners in San Francisco in the NFC Championship game. He played like dirt against Brady in 2020 in the NFC Championship game at home at Lambeau. In 2021, he played like dirt against the 49ers again at Lambeau when they were the 1 seed, and then played like dirt last year in the final regular season game against the Lions. This is now a trend of Aaron Rodgers coming up lame when it mattered most, and the Packers had 4 good teams. This past season wasn't a great team, apparently. We saw that from the regular season record, but he's had a pretty good team who was a Super Bowl favorite all 4 years, and when the rubber hit the road of those games, he played like garbage. So I got questions about whether that changes because he went to New York. I know that there's this narrative that he's going to try to prove the Packers wrong, and you've got a vengeful revenge tour, Aaron Rodgers, and you know what? God bless. I hope it happens. I hope it happens. Because a vengeance tour by Aaron Rodgers in an AFC that has Joe Burrow and Josh Allen and right now Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and Tua, if he goes on a vengeance tour and starts beating up on everybody, again, more power to him. And even better, if he lays 2 ass whippings on the Patriots, you know who's going to be his biggest fan ever. Moi. So, more power if that happens. I just don't trust the guy. I don't trust where his mental state is at. I don't trust his focus. I don't trust him fighting through adversity. I don't trust him building culture. I don't trust him in big spots. I don't trust him in playoff games. I just don't trust the guy. But if he does it, God bless. I think the Packers got more than enough for him. I think they got more than enough for him because they basically had a 1 and a 2. Rodgers will play more than 65% of the snaps this year unless he's injured. Or, I suppose, unless it turns into the Carson Wentz situation where the first half of the season's so bleak that they purposefully bench him in the second half of the year so they don't have to give up a number 1 draft pick. But if you play 65% of the snaps, Jets have to give up a 1 next year, not a 2. It's a 1. So unless this ends up at 2-6 midway through the season and they're 4-10 and they just bench him for a month and a half, he's going to play 65% of the season. They're going to get a 1. If they get a 1 next year and a 2 this year for a guy that they didn't want and only one other team was buying him, good job by Goonsey Coonsey. I used this metaphor earlier in the morning. If you walk onto a used car lot and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and absolutely nobody is there, and they have told you, we've got to sell this Hyundai by 5 o'clock when this place closes. It has to be off the lot. You would sit there until 4:58 and then lowball them an offer and know you're going to get it at your price. That was the Packers. They had to sell Aaron Rodgers. They only had one guy on the lot to sell it to, and they still got a 1 and a 2. Pretty good. And didn't have to give up insurance in case he only plays one season. For Rodgers, you better damn well play more than a year. This better be a 2-year plus endeavor in New York for Aaron Rodgers. Unless he walks off into the sunset after a Super Bowl. But if you want out of Green Bay and you're telling the Jets, sign Allen Lazard, and they do, we want this guy, and they listen, and they bring in your favorites, and they bow down to you, and they say, we'll do this, that, and the other thing for you, and they give up a 1 and a 2, and you're only there for a year, you've shortchanged them. So don't ask for all that power, that influence, the money, and the players that only give them 17 games. He better be around for 2 years. I think the Packers now transition smoothly into Jordan Love, and this will either make or break Gutsy Coonsey. Either he saw it, and Matt LaFleur saw it 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when they said, we got to move up to get that dude because he's the next, and we need somebody in waiting, and we got to have a smooth transition. And if Jordan Love comes in and plays well, doesn't mean they have to get to the NFC Championship game, but if he plays well and you see, okay, he's their next guy, they get validated. Now, I still think it was a mistake to draft him when they did, because I think at that point in time you had an Aaron Rodgers that could win a Super Bowl and a team that could as well, and you spent a first-round draft pick on the only position that couldn't help the team win a Super Bowl at that time. The guy backing up Aaron Rodgers. The only thing they couldn't spend a first-round pick on was a guy that wouldn't play. So I didn't like that pick then. I still don't like it. But if this is the next 10-year solution to QB that the Packers have done since the early 90s with Favre, you got to give that brass credit. And I will wrap with this. Aaron Rodgers did this to himself and did this to his legacy and did this to his reputation, where one of the greatest players in franchise history, a good portion of the fan base just wanted him to be gone. Get it over with. Wisconsin, Green Bay, Packer fans are salt of the earth, good, no-nonsense people that want to just drink their beer, have their brat, and watch their Packers. And he made it untenable because he had to win. He had to win over Gutsy Coonsey. He had to be the guy over Matt LaFleur. He had to be the dude. He had to be the star. You had to bow to him. He had to make the money. He had to make the calls. It had to be about him. And every time it wasn't about him, he rattled the cage and said, why is it not about me? And the good people of Wisconsin finally got sick of it. Got a lot of number 12 jerseys in Wisconsin. A lot of jerseys and autographed footballs and Rodgers bobbleheads, and they all loved him. But he made it to the point where most of them said, okay, are we done here yet? Because this is stupid. And he did this to himself because, he's a bad combination of being a sensitive egomaniac. It's not a good combination, but that's what he is. Very good at football, but he's a sensitive egomaniac. And it's a shame that it comes down to this, where he has to unceremoniously be traded before the NFL draft, just so everybody can now go on their merry way. But this was the bed that Aaron Rodgers wanted.